What's up, you guys, and welcome to Impact 24 PR's second annual From Script to Screen Behind the Camera of Film and TV panel. I'm Chris Villan, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. We have a lot of questions, so we're just going to jump right in and get this bad boy started. This first question is for everyone, so I think we'll start here, and we'll go down the line. I'm going to start from the beginning. When you first receive a script, what's the first thing you're looking for or thinking in terms of your creative role?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Comic-Con. This is the first time I've been to one of these. And
yeah!
And I'm a composer, and normally we come in at the very end of a project, and oftentimes we don't even bother looking at scripts. But this one, Dora and the Search for Soul, Dorado, was one that I really wanted to dig into the script and read it right away. You know, it's a familiar IP. It's a live-action take, so you want to see what the screenwriter's going to do with it. And then from there, you imagine, and the director that I was working with, Alberto Belli, really loves to make epic features out of whatever the content may be, and I really wanted to see what he was going to do with it. So reading the script and imagining what the finished product was going to be like was really exciting, and wow, did he ever hit a home run on it. It was amazing.
I love it.
So I've been lucky to work on Looney Tunes, the shorts, and then this feature, and in both cases, there's actually no script. There's a script at the end, but the way that they're written is a bunch of cartoonists who make each other laugh, sit in a room, and they draw pictures, and they construct a story, and they build a story out of drawings. And that's actually how the original Looney Tunes were made in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So when I was asked to work on this movie, I would have loved to read a script, but there wasn't one available. So
I didn't know that actually until this moment. That's very unique.
And so at the end, they make one, you know, because you have to do that. But so on this film, I got an animatic, and they were kind enough to let me watch the movie with no music, which is very rare that you get to do that. And so for me, I'm asking myself, what am I feeling? You know, I might start humming a melody or start having some ideas. So while I'm watching the film, I usually have my phone with me and I'm humming things and scribbling down notes. But really, I'm just looking for like a core feeling. And in this film, it was friendship was the feeling. Love between two friends was the feeling that I really came away from.
How nice. I love that. John, how about you?
So the show I'm here for mostly is unscripted. But I'm going to come to that later because there's no safety.
Then why did I ask you about scripts? What's going on?
Question. So previous experience that I've had, I've done a feature with Steve Barron called Choker Man many years ago. And as an editor, oftentimes you're working on production on a bigger movie like that. But on that I came in as the second editor, and the thing you're really looking at is the script. I mean, it's like a treasure map, right? You've got this idea, and it's wonderful, and it's set down. And then you've got the reality of what is shot. What are the performances like? You know, are you going to be able to achieve the goal of the script? So that's one of the first things that I'm looking at on something like a scripted show. Development, I've done a lot of development for ABC. I used to get pilot scripts. And that process, you are trying to put something together visually, stylistically, and tonally that is going to match what the show is going to be. An example on that is The Good Doctor. Great show that ABC ran for several seasons. I think it's canceled now. And to get that tone, there was a guy called great actor, Freddie Highmore. He was playing an autistic surgeon. That's the idea from that show. I had the pilot script, not one frame was shot, but what I did was use his performance from Bates Motel, one scene in particular where he's looking at himself in the mirror, and it's an awful scene. It's someone contemplating murder and what he's done, but it was perfect to show that kind of inner world of someone that could be that character in The Good Doctor. And if you get the chance, look at the development piece and then compare it to the eventual trailer after the pilot was shot. Okay, back to unscripted. No safety net, right?
Right.
So the first thing I'm thinking of is how are we going to deal with, in the last couple of seasons of the show I'm on, 4,500, 5,000 hours of footage. Where do you pull a story from? And that's the main part of the job.
My heart rate just increased, and I'm now anxious just thinking about that because that's so much content to come through.
Now we have a story team. Like I said at the beginning, there's a treasure map with a script. Unscripted, there's not a treasure map. There may be a treasure map, but there's monsters over here. You're never going to end up at that destination. Everything
Right.
changes all the time. It's super fluid, and you have to be really flexible.
And that's why you're here, because you're great at what you do. I love that. Eric, how about you?
Can I borrow yours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I started off as a cartoonist, and like Josh was saying, I have done stories off of just getting a premise. And then I've also worked off of scripts, and every single time, I've got a lot of anxiety. So the first thing I think of is, how am I going to pull this off? It's just, here's another one. I always think it's just going to never happen, this time around. But you work sort of through it. I think, for me, the thing I'm looking for is it character driven? Are the characters funny? And do I have a satisfying ending? And I think also being a writer from storyboarding. And then being a writer later on for scripts. I'm also kind of writing for the storyboard artists in a way, having been on the other side of that too, getting scripts where, my wife is also a screenwriter, and there's a lot of times where it's like, not really taking into account the staging of every little thing, and having been on sets that friends have had where they're making a movie, they've got the script, but then there's a realization of, oh, well, because we're in this environment and so-and-so is wearing that shirt, oh, and there's this door, all these weird little things that you don't think about, you're going to rewrite that thing in that moment. So when I get a script versus, writing through storyboard, I have to imagine what it would be like to be on the set. And a lot of times you're storyboarding, and this is part of our job as a storyboard artist, is to find those, problem solve that stuff. Is I draw it, and then I go, oh, there's that thing that happens, and now I got to go all the way back to here and start it all over. So those are the things I think about that, and usually that's, they give you 6 weeks to storyboard something, or,
Right.
So the first week is a panic attack. And then, sitting there thinking about it over and over and over again, the whole thing, how am I going to do this scene? And then you start on your thumbnails. So that's what goes through my mind.
Eden, how many panic attacks have you had this week?
Thankfully none.
Good. Let's keep it that way.
I wrote on a show called Wylde for Nickelodeon that,
Brilliant show.
yay! I believe it premiered about a month ago. As of today, I can only talk about one episode that I wrote.
Do not get us in trouble.
I will not.
Thank
None
you.
of you are worth breaking my NDA. I'm so sorry.
But it was
but
in the clips, wasn't it?
It was in the clips, yes. So that episode is called Camp Chuck. And so for me, I pitched that episode. The final episode actually ended up quite close to my original pitch, which is kind of rare. Yes, that is a brag. And for me, I'm a theater kid. And so I knew I wanted to write a theater episode. That the whole season took place over the summer. So I'm like, great, theater camp. The theater camp movie, the one with Ben Platt, had just come out. So it was just really good timing. And so I was just excited to write a theater camp episode that I could draw so much of my personal and my friends' experience and put that into the episode. Being a cartoon, it had to be the two main kids. It had to be their main story. If it were up to me, it would have been the story of the guy who ran the theater camp. His name is Chuck. He's like a schemer, kind of redneck goon guy, very near and dear to my heart. And, I might not look like a redneck goon, but inside, he's in there.
Spirit is there.
He is in there. And so, comedy is all about subverting expectations, right? So who do you least expect to run a theater camp, this sort of hillbilly guy. And so then, knowing I had to make the kids the A story, instead of giving them separate stories, they made the kids one compatible A story. They had the same goal. They stuck together the whole episode. That way I was able to make Chuck the B story and give him a full arc. Once I knew that, he's this chaotic guy and he's going to basically make things a mess, the kids' story was really just sort of the opposite of that. And so it all it came together really, really easily. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Denise, what do you have to tell us?
I'm here for a film called Parachutes, and it's also my first time in Comic-Con.
Another round of applause.
Yeah, Parachutes is actually having a screening on Saturday night. And so basically, I received a pitch deck first and then the script. And I just want to walk you through the thought process. Basically, when I get a pitch deck, it's the director giving us information on what the tone of the film is and what the general storyline is. And at that stage, I'm maybe hearing the ensemble in my head. What am I going full orchestra? Am I going smaller orchestra? Am I not doing any orchestra? And when I get this script, once I've decided on this ensemble and have had conversations with my director, the script gives me a better idea of the character of my protagonist, which is my main focus at this beginning stage. What is my protagonist going through? What is their story arc? What is their evolution? And as I read the script, I get to see their lines, and I start hearing the notes. If I've chosen orchestra, I start hearing the little ditties that the flute is playing for my main character. So that's kind of the beginning stages of it, and really the writing happens much later, but it's a good start to come from.
Right. I love that we have so much musicality on our panel today. It makes me very happy because things like that, you guys' brains work differently in that way, and it makes me excited.
We're kind of crazy.
Lastly, Bob, well, we all are a little crazy, so that helps as well. Bobby, how about you?
So I guess first and foremost, just like many others, this is my first Comic-Con.
Hey!
So thrilled to be here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Impact, for hosting.
It's my honor. Truly, thank you.
And no, thank you all for being here. We're just so excited to talk about Dora and sit here with these creative geniuses and just share our craft. With Dora, I actually get the privilege of receiving a locked picture. So I'm very lucky in that way that I bypassed the script stage. But if
Everyone on this panel just went, oh, yes.
I know, I'm spoiled for sure.
Bobby, is it really locked though? That's the most misused word out.
90%. That's right.
Wow.
No, and then with the script, if I do have a script, the first thing I'm looking for, I'm looking for clues as to how I can best support the story with music. And a lot of that is immediately trying to identify what's the heart of the story. Is it a story about love? Is it a story about friendship? Or is it ultimately a story about belonging? And so I'm looking for that. And then I'm also trying to get a read on the tone. Is it upbeat? Is it dark? Is it scary? And then maybe it's a period piece. Is it set in a specific historical piece that maybe we want to has some historical significance we want to explore? Or maybe there's some regional significance where it's in a particular region where I might want to use authentic regional instruments to kind of make it a more immersive experience. And then beyond that, I think the next exciting part is that what follows is a conversation with the director. And that's where us as composers, then we get to pick the director's brain and find out, what's his or her vision for the score. Do they want an orchestral score? Do they want an electronic score? Do they want a blend of electronic and orchestral, which would be hybrid? So yeah, I love reading scripts, but then speaking with the director, then I can really get my job started.
Nice. My next question is actually directly to you, Bobby, so we're going to stick over there.
Hey.
The Dora reboot has such a fresh and vibrant sound. With Dora Season 3 just released as part of the Great Dora celebration, Can you tell us about the musical palette that you developed for this new version of the show and how you approach creating music that invites kids to participate?
Yeah, so the Great Dora Celebration is a 25th anniversary celebration of Dora. She's been out since 2000, so go Team Dora. I think it's a testament to Dora as a character. She's such a positive influence and inspiration to kids and adults all around the world. I'm excited to be part of that legacy. A little bit about me. I am third generation Latino. My grandparents were from Monterrey, Mexico. I grew up in Houston. My home was filled with lots of Mexican music. I listened to Juan Gabriel, Luis Miguel. Okay, so then fast forward to like 2024, my wife and I have a 2-year-old daughter, and we love having these reggaeton dance parties to Bad Bunny.
That's so specific. I love it.
And my daughter, as soon as she hears like 808 and bass, she's immediately like,
It's done.
she's grooving, okay? And so when I got the opportunity to demo, I thought, wouldn't it be a cool opportunity to blend some of these sounds, 808s, trap snares, trap hi-hats, with some of the traditional Mexican sounds that I was inspired by, that I grew up with. And then in terms of the interactive element, I would say I end a lot of my chords unresolved when Dora asks a question, followed by silence. So the hope is that the audience then will fill in that answer. It's almost like if you were sitting around singing Happy Birthday around this beautiful cake, and you know you don't get a slice of cake until Happy Birthday is done. And we stop before the last chord, and you're just waiting to get your cake. And so I hope I sort of create those moments. And sorry, maybe people are thinking about cake now, but anyway.
That was actually a great way to explain that for like a non-musical person.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Kenny, I'm going to jump back over to you. Also on a Dora project, you composed the score for Dora and the Search for Soul Dorado, which is part of the great Dora Fiesta celebration. What was your creative approach to crafting music that honors Dora's legacy while introducing something exciting and new?
Thank you. Well, it was a great challenge, and I was excited to jump right in. And I think something that really, made me feel at home when I was into it was how welcoming the Dora community was, and that includes Bobby over here, who was one of the first people who, just helped me, get my toes wet in the water. And but like him, listening to Bad Bunny and things, I did the same.
I love that Bad Bunny is the recurring theme of this.
He's the jam, I swear.
Wow! Everyone, write Bad Bunny down. We're calling him after this.
And as well as Camila Cabello and all the big Latin artists. Something about Dora is it's not just Mexican; it's pan-Latin. It's anything that around the world where Spanish is spoken, Dora has a presence there, and in other places too. So one of the things was we recorded the orchestra in Scotland, and when I went there, one of the first questions I asked was, how many in here have watched the Dora show? And about 3/4 of them raised their hand. And these are people who have haggis for dinner. So being welcomed into this environment was amazing. But to answer the question, it was a lot about immersing myself in 25 years of history. And unfortunately, I have a 5-year-old daughter who is just at the perfect age to get right into both the original Dora series and the new one that Bobby does, and we love both. And we spent many hours just immersed in it, and that was my orientation and welcome to the Dora universe.
I love it. Do you think Bad Bunny would be down for a collab with Dora the Explorer? A question for another time. I'm going to jump to Denise.
Yes.
What are some of the key musical ideas or themes that you wanted to explore in Parachutes, and how did you use the score to support the film's suspense and emotional tension?
Ooh. So Parachutes is a thriller, but it actually is based off of a story of a real person. It's about a Korean immigrant who was sent as a teenager to the U.S., and she ends up with an abusive foster mom. And so all of that drama is told through the lens of a thriller. That was like the tone that we were going for. So when I first heard about it and saw this story and saw the script, I already felt like this was larger than life, even though this whole film actually exists in a trailer and the surrounding field that it was in. It was such a large story because it was all about like what us immigrants have to go through to live the American dream, right? So that was the first thing that I had thought of, something larger than life. And luckily enough, that was what my director was wanting to do. My director, Leslie Alejandro, wanted to pay homage to old Hollywood thrillers. So those two put together, mixed with a little bit of Korean and just epic orchestra. So that's what the palette was. And I basically just think maybe a Hitchcock movie. So that was the palette of the whole thing. And when we were done, my director went back to me and said, wow, this added so much depth to the story. Because we could have done it so many different ways. We could have done a minimal score with, solo instruments, but including a full ensemble, like big strings and big brass, just made it all this like suffering feel heavier and just somehow more real.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the melting pot of different concepts as well that created that. That sounds really cool.
Thank you.
Eden,
Yes.
I want to ask you, what's the dynamic like in the Wylde Pack writers' room? How do you and your team collaborate to develop the tone, humor, and emotional beats of the show?
Yeah, the Wylde Pack room was very collaborative. Actually, one of our other staff writers, Todd McClintock, is there.
Shout out to Todd!
Yay, Todd! So, Todd, would you agree we had a good vibe in the room? Great vibe. Our showrunners were very big on saying the best idea wins. So it didn't matter who the idea came from, if they're at the bottom or the top of the totem pole, even an exec gave us an idea, which, normally it's like. So one of the episodes was pitched by the secretary. It fostered a very communal feeling, not only in the room, but with the whole crew. For me, of course, I wanted to get as many jokes, as much of my fingerprints on every episode that I could. The first joke I got in was in the pilot, which is on YouTube. Wylde Pack is a Korean-American family sitcom, and so the mom is half Korean. Her mother, Halmini, says something to her in Korean while she's watching TV, and her white husband says, "What did your mom say?" And Min, the mom, goes, "Ah." And that's me. Not only do I answer I don't know to most questions, I'm so lazy I can't even say I don't know. I say I don't know. So now that little bit of Min is in me, or if me is in Min, which is cool. The room, we spent the first 5 weeks doing a blue sky brainstorm to build the entire world of the show. I remember our showrunners said, don't worry about the Bible. They had this 20-page pitch Bible that had gotten the show sold. They said, there's a few things in there, but otherwise we want you to make the show together, which was scary, but it was very freeing. Then we spent the next 15 months breaking a new episode every week. So there were 52 11-minute episodes. After about a year and a half, we had the whole season. And so it definitely, you had to break the episode in a day. If you didn't break the episode by the end of the day, you still had to go home and write it. So definitely preferable to figure out together what was going on in that episode. That being said, different writers always have different strengths. For me, I became the authority on Chuck, the redneck goon I mentioned earlier. Everyone would come to me saying, what would Chuck say here? You're kind of a lowlife. You get him.
Great.
Right. And then Lily is the main character, or one of the two main kids. She's a very competitive only child like me. I think it was Denise said I became the only child consultant on the show. And so that was really fun. I also come from a more improv sketch comedy background, and most of my comedy that I write outside of a setting like Nickelodeon is going to be very blue, very R-rated, and so sometimes we wanted to punch up an episode, make it funnier for the parents, while still, of course, being G-rated, and so I was someone that they would send that to add some, borderline raunchy jokes.
Eden, we need you to blur the lines here, please.
Right, exactly. We need something offensive. Send it to Eden.
I love it. So good, happy times. Great.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You have to go to the offensive and then bring yourself back.
Yes.
It always happens.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Erik, that there's only so much you can prepare for, right? You prepare as much as you can. You do 80% of the prep, but then that 20% when something unexpected happens is a lot of the time where the magic happens if you're willing to make those on-set or in-edit changes. But some people get so fixated on what it was supposed to be that you ignore the potential of what could be if you adapt.
That's
Wise
the creative
words.
collaboration that everybody has, and you have to learn how to do that too. It takes a while, and everybody gets their groove, and when they see the animatic, there's ideas that are still being pitched, and that's fun. So it's like the writing doesn't stop for a while. Yeah.
It's never, a script is never done, it's just due.
I love that.
Yeah.
A perfect segue. Erik, my next question is for you, actually. While I run your resume real fast, hold on. On shows like SpongeBob and Samurai Jack, storyboards played a major role in shaping the story. How did that influence your directing style, and did any of those techniques carry over to your work on Snoopy Presents?
Yeah, it did. So with SpongeBob and Samurai Jack, they give you a one-page summary. Sometimes they'll give you like the breakdown of the beats. And what ends up happening is I think the difference too that I was saying earlier is that you're already thinking about the visual gags as well as the dialogue. The visual gags then inform the funny dialogue, and I think because it's with SpongeBob, there was so much creative freedom, and you could do so many wild, weird, abstract ideas, especially those first 3 seasons. It's like nobody knew what this was. It's like so bizarre. What's this cheese that's underwater? The Swiss cheese. So we got to do a lot of crazy stuff, and we would do that thing where we would go over the line just to get there, because the writer's room, it's a closed room, it's a sacred room, and you do whatever you can. You go in all kinds of places, and then you do your edits, and you have to make it, you got to know your audience and who you're making it for. But so going back to your question, that's what the storyboard would do for me. So then later on, going into other shows, like I said earlier, you're kind of writing for the storyboard artist, and sometimes I'd even thumbnail some stuff out before I typed anything down. But because I had those 2 disciplines, I think when I got to Snoopy, we had the script, and then you go at it, you just do a storyboard blast, and then you put it up on the wall, and you just go, okay, this isn't working. This could be funnier, and because this, it's a musical with Ben Folds, so we have Ben Folds doing the music for the Peanuts summer. It's a summer camp episode. It's going to be on Apple Plus next month. You're working on these songs too, and because of the storyboard process, it's not that much of a problem to go take it out, do this, do that, change it. So I think that you get the script, and you put it up, and you're done. You now are in this place you've launched, and you're still writing as you go along. And then it sort of becomes more of a storyboard process again through the writing. I think with animation, being even in feature animation, I just came off of Spider-Verse, same thing, and it was like, you get that script. It's amazing script, and then you put it up, and you're like, oh, yeah, we got to redo this through storyboard, because you see new things.
Right.
But that's, again, where I think, all of that comes in handy, not having, done script stories. But again, like Fairly Odd Parents, these are cartoonists writing it, and you get it, and you just break it down, and it works, And,
Right.
And I know Paul and those guys, and they say the same thing. Like, it just works. So, yeah.
I love it. John, I want to jump to you. You're currently deep into season 3 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. What are some of the unique editorial challenges or opportunities that come with shaping a series like this over multiple seasons?
Good question.
I was reading it and I was like, wow,
That is
I
a
need a
great
raise. That was a great question.
So I think for the biggest issue, and it's happened on multiple shows. I've been doing unscripted for 6 years, I think now, and the biggest issue after season 1 is that the cast kind of, I call it, they become self-aware. Like obviously they watch the show and they go, "Oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I'm going to change that." And that's probably the biggest challenge that we face in any unscripted show that's docu-follow, which is the kind of style that we do. It's the cast that become self-aware, and so they'll try and change themselves. They'll try and, like we'd all do this, right? You try and put a better version of yourself. You try and show what you'd like to show the audience. And the problem is that comes off as just completely fake. It's not real at all. And I know there's a big discussion, and Denise was going to ask me a question about, is it really real?
I was waiting
Is
for
it
you
real?
to finish so
Is
I
it
can
real?
ask it.
I'm sorry, did I steal your thunder there?
So
Which is a great
tell us, is it real?
Well, I'll get there. Well, I'm kind of answering it this way, because when that is fake, when an unscripted cast member tries, we call it self-producing, they'll even try to introduce their own storylines, they'll try and put on, I'll try and show what they want the world to see, and the audience, you guys pick up on that just like that. You're like, that's not right. Now, I'm not, the process of making an unscripted show, it's not scripted, of course, but there is story, and there is editing, and there is scoring, and there's everything that goes into any other show or film. It is a craft, it is created, but the best ones aren't fake. They get to the truth of what people's relationships are like. And the best cast members are the ones that realize that, trust in the production, and let us do our job. People want to see people warts and all, and they can be very forgiving, and authenticity is super key, at least on the shows that I've been working on. And so I'm going to tip the show's own hat right now, because we just got nominated for an Emmy, which is the first time. So we're obviously doing something right. That really is the biggest challenge. The nice stuff is you get a lot more time to work with the characters and the stories and explore some things, which you don't on a first season. On a first season, you have so much to set up. I don't know if many of you know what the show is about, but in season 1, we had to explain that there was this group of famous TikTok Mormon mums that had big followings, that then it all blew up when one of them went on a live stream and said that were all soft swinging with each other. We started production. She then got arrested. We had to go on hiatus, or the production had to go on hiatus, and then we picked it up a year later, by which time Taylor Frankie Paul was fairly heavily pregnant.
This is live television, folks.
That is
This
live
is
television.
great.
So, and that all had to go in episode 1,
Wow.
before we could get to current time and what the show is about. So, season 2, season 3, we start to explore more. I mean, graphically, tonally, musically, all that's been set up, which is what I was responsible for a lot of on season 1 with the EPs that we worked with that were fantastic. So yeah, we just get, the plus side is we get a lot more time to explore characters.
I love it. And this is why you got nominated for an Emmy, because that was really hard. You did a good job. Okay, Joshua, I want to talk about the comedy and timing of something like Looney Tunes, because comedy and timing are everything in something like Looney Tunes. How did you use music to support the film's humor and enhance the pacing of the animation?
Great question. So there's an amazing tradition and history of music in Looney Tunes, and we've all, kind of absorbed it as humans moving through the world. And I wanted to come at it in we all try to bring ourselves to things, and I wanted to come more from like a sketch comedy perspective. That's something Eden and I have in common. For me, first, as a fan of sketch comedy, before I lived in LA, I was mainly a jazz musician playing gigs as a pianist in Chicago, and I would play shows, and you would finish at like 11 or 12 at night. I would have all this energy. Where can I go? Like my brain is firing, and so I would go check out I.O. I would check out Second City, and I met all these amazing comedians that were making stuff, and so I started to make stuff with them, and then we all kind of moved out to LA, and so I was fortunate to work on a bunch of live action stuff, and in particular, I worked on this amazing show edited by two amazing editors that are here. Jonathan Kramer and Heather Capps both worked on Three Busy Debras.
Shout out to Jonathan Heather.
Gotta love the love for the editors. Thank you.
Which was basically a live action cartoon. And really, Adult Swim does an amazing job, I think, of actually preserving the spirit of Looney Tunes, especially like the really zany madcap Looney Tunes, but in a new way. And I remember being at a mix with Jonathan, and he'd be like, "What are you working on next?" And I was like, "I think I'm going to be doing Looney Tunes." And I had pitched for Looney Tunes and found out I would get to do it, which was amazing. And they were like, "Guess what? You're going to get to write 500 minutes of Looney Tunes cartoons." And I said, "Oh, wow. How long is that going to take?" And they were like, "We don't know."
You tell us.
And that COVID happened to all of us. Ended up taking about 5 years to do that. So what was amazing, I basically for 5 years wrote a Looney Tunes cartoon a week. And so I learned a lot through that process. I was able to apply a bunch of like ideas and things that I'd always wanted to try. So when I finally got the opportunity to do the movie, it was like, okay, so like what stays? What do we throw out? Like, how do we make this a film? How do we make this big? It's not TV. It's on a big screen. And for me, it's like, okay, it's a movie now. There's stakes, it's grounded. So when there's drama, it's real drama. When there's horror, it's actual horror. But when there's a funny drawing, the music's gonna do that, And so you're really letting the drawings tell you how the music acts. And because it's hand drawn by people, there's just this amazing flexibility and agility, and so the music has to really follow that. But I was talking about the core of the movie. There's this amazing scene where Porky and Daffy have this fight, and when I was working, I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're married." I mean, I'm not like, this isn't canon. This is just my take on it, but it's really about like this relationship, like it's about to fracture, and they really hurt each other, and so the music really, it's played really straight, and Pete, the director, told me, he's like, I want Porky and Daffy to make everyone cry. Aww. And so I was, that's really all I've wanted to hear my whole life, was that sentence. So getting to work on it was a big honor. I hope everybody sees it. It's called The Day the Earth Blew Up. It's on HBO Max. And
Everyone write it down. Put it on the watch list, please.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope you all like
Great
it.
score.
This is a great segue because you guys are already talking to each other. This question is for Erik and Joshua. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but collaboration is a huge part of this industry. How do you guys approach working with other departments to maintain a shared vision throughout the project? If there's anything that I guess we haven't already covered.
Doing animation takes a long time. Having friends who do live action, they're like done with the shoot in 3 months. You're like, but you're, doing an animation, it's slow, and I think that does allow you to move around the different departments a lot. But it's a lot of conversations with the directors, the producers, and the writers, bringing the writers also into the editorial, bringing the composer into editorial. I think lately what I do like, somebody was saying that they're getting the picture without a scratch track, and that's been pretty cool. I've been avoiding that too. I think I heard an interview where Danny Elfman was saying something like, we're always getting scratch track, and then everybody gets used to that, and then that's what they want to hear. My question is, like, were you getting a lot of Carl Stalling stuff? Like, because your stuff wasn't totally, like, it wasn't chasing picture so much, and it was so refreshing.
Oh, thank you.
And then there was times where you like, hit it, where it really needed it. And that conversation, was that being had with Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just freestyle it, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
I feel like it was just kind of like this delicate thing where it's like you don't want to do it too much, but you have to do it just enough. But I relate to everything you're saying. I think a big thing for me is just the color of the film. It's got this beautiful production design. And because I was working to animatic, I was constantly asking, like, hey, can you just like send me some backgrounds? Can you send me, like, there's a color script? Has anyone ever seen a color script? Pixar is kind of famous for, they'll script out the film with colors. Every Looney Tunes cartoon, this is amazing. Even the TV ones that we made for HBO Max, each one has a color script. And so that's an amazing resource because it tells you the mood of what you're trying to do, and it changes the orchestration. So I'm just always asking, like, more. Like, what can I?
And that's that collaborative thing,
Right.
is keeping in contact with everybody. Yeah.
I want to jump to Eden and Kenny. This question is for you guys. How do you guys navigate creative challenges when the final product shifts from the original script, or when there are revisions? And can you share a time when you had to adapt on the fly? We did talk about this a little bit earlier as well. Anything you guys want to add?
I lucked out with Dora and the Search for Soul Dorado because the script didn't change, the story didn't change, scenes were not deleted or anything. Everything was in there. But I did have to deal with lots of revisions. There were lots of characters. Characters went through transformations, and especially if I don't want to spoil it for anyone here, but one of the characters is actually Dora's idol, the character that inspired her to become an explorer. And she starts out as, a very idyllic kind of person. She becomes the bad guy early on in the movie.
Plot twist.
And then she becomes something else, which I won't spoil towards the end. So you have to wrap themes around that, and it's a thing where you're gonna try things and see what sticks, and you have to know that you're gonna be going back and fixing it later, and making adjustments and making sure that the story arc of a character theme makes sense from beginning to end.
Sure.
And sometimes you have to do it backwards. Like, so for that particular character's theme, I actually started from the end of the movie and worked my way to the front. And something that helped a lot was some clutch editing, and we were able to have all this make sense, getting revision notes and feedback from not just the director but from all departments, including Evan and other places too.
Yeah, well, I mentioned earlier how with Camp Chuck, it was kind of one of those rare examples of my original premise could still be used as the log line for the final episode. Even on that episode, I remember a week after the board launch, so my script had been sent, the director, Ari Castleton, who's fabulous, and our storyboard artist, Megan Fisher, asked to meet with me and review some changes for the episode. And that doesn't always happen. There's often, some people don't like when their work is changed. I had a good relationship with them. We'd hung out. And that's so much of what it's about, right, is just being able to talk to the people that you want to collaborate with, because it can be so hard to say, you wrote this, but I don't like it and I think it's stupid. Because people take it personally. So for me, we met a week later. I liked almost all their changes, but there was one that honestly I really didn't like, and I didn't think it would work for a variety of reasons. because we had that relationship, we were able to talk through, okay, what's the core of what you don't like about what's there now, and how can we change it so that it'll still work for all of us? And I think that kind of smooth, we had an honest relationship, but we still treated each other with a lot of respect. And I think it showed because that episode got moved from 34th to 8th in the airing order, which is a big deal for a show that's trying to get a season 2. It aired right after the Kids' Choice Awards. It was really awesome. There was another episode I wrote that I can't talk about what it's about, but the same when I got to writer's room, I had pitched a somewhat provocative episode that was may or may not have been making fun of our executives, and everybody was really excited about it. I get to room that day, and our showrunners are like, you know what, we can't do this episode. It's too raunchy.
Too much.
So I'm like, great. So now I'm just going to think of a new one on the spot. But because we had the core of that character and the arc that we wanted to tell, we as a room were able to adapt and write a new episode that was plot-wise completely different, but emotionally kind of still the same.
Nice.
You're telling me that premise when we're done here.
Oh, of course.
All right, lastly, guys, I want to jump to 3 people, Bobby, Denise, and John. Working on projects across different genres and formats, how has that diversity influenced your personal creative process? And anybody feel free to jump in.
I promise no cake analogies this time. So you have a donut, and no. I had a professor at Berkeley who, conducting professor, his name is Tibor Pustai, rest in peace, and him and he used to always say, everything is everything, and that phrase sort of stuck with me. It's akin to, life imitates art, art imitates life, and I truly believe every past project, even past experiences, emotional experiences, experiences with my kids, anything, they all, in some way, seem to enhance the next project that I'm working on, whether it's a deepening of an emotional understanding of a particular emotion, or maybe it's a sound on a project that I'm super excited about, or a new instrument I learned that I'm excited to carry with me into the next project. I think probably even deeper than that, the most valuable tool and piece is I love working with different teams. And I think with each project, I love that filmmaking is such a collaboration. I mean, all of you guys, all of our different disciplines, we all get to work together. And there's just so much to learn, I find, from each of you and each of the teams that I get to work with that when I start my next project, it's like, oh, wow, okay, this is how this director responded to this type of music. Or maybe I have a deeper understanding about a specific story I wasn't familiar with before. And so it's that personal connection that I think is really the thing that I like to carry with me from project to project. And also like feedback on cues. I get a lot of feedback on cues and different stuff, and sometimes there's a common thread of like, oh, we really like this cue, or this is like way too scary. And I'm like, okay, these are my way too scary cues. So anyway, I think at the end of the day, all of us here as storytellers and collaborators, our main objective is really just trying to connect with other people and connect with each other on a deeper emotional level. We're telling stories. And so I'm just thrilled to be a part of that, and I love learning from others.
It all comes down to telling a story and having something to say. And my job is to help, as an editor, is to help facilitate that, whether it's a director or a showrunner. But yeah, what you said, it's all about telling stories. And it all influences you over the years. I was super psyched when I heard that Erik was on this panel. So one of my first editing jobs was doing promos for Nickelodeon.
A secret tie that we didn't know about.
A secret. So I used to do promos for SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, The Mighty Bee.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I loved it. Kinda.
Wow, I love it. Denise, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, totally. I mean, to add to what both of them have already so well said, I think working on a variety of projects gives us really good perspective because you work with different people who have different backgrounds and specialize in different genres, and you're asked to step into that world in post-production. And these people give us the perspective of like where we're supposed to come from, like musically. Am I gonna do something too funny or dark funny or just minimal funny? So like I've had the privilege of working on a variety of things. Like I've done Americana music for Alaskan bush people. I've written music for a nature documentary called Primates, which I was lucky enough to win an Emmy for with my co-composer Adam Lucas, and that was like a, oh, thank you. That was like a pop inspired, because it was about monkeys and primates, obviously, and we wanted to have fun with it, and we wanted pop music infused with orchestral music, and the perspective that we were given was, let's try to be funny here, even though it's a nature documentary, which are usually serious and beautiful, but it gave us this kind of different point of view. And having worked on different projects and now having parachutes, and I think every project has taught me to have this like creative adaptability. Like every project has a North Star, and if you stick to that and you remember that with every project, then there's really nothing can go wrong, although sometimes they do. But you know, if you just follow that North Star and stay there, and you'll be fine. So it's easy it has become easy throughout the years, jumping from one kind of project to another kind of project, as long as you get to know your collaborators, you get to know them and get to know the purpose and the message of this project.
I love it. I love it. You guys, with that is all the time that we have today. Thank you to our panelists, Bobby, Denise, Eden, Eric, John, Joshua, and Kenny, for being here with us today. Also, thank you to Impact 24 PRR and Comic-Con for putting this panel together, and for all of you guys for joining us. Make sure to tag us in your posts with #ScriptToScreen and @Impact24PR.